والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد ولد آدم أجمعين صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين على مر الأيام والليالي والشهور والسنين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. طيب, Sunday, January 24th, 10, we continue in Buloogh Al-Maraam, the illustrious Imam Al-Hafiz Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani, who died 852 after the Hijrah, Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. We continue Kitab al-Nikah, the book of marriage, Sunday, January 27th, 4:10 p.m., which is which agrees on the Hijri calendar, which is Jumad al-Ula, the 20th of Jumad al-Ula, 1440 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. As the questions, alhamdulillah, about the sisters are excellent. Like I said, the sister asked a very beneficial question. She said from the deviant sex, like we said, or like she mentioned, those who make mockery of the Sunnah, have they left the fold of Islam? Do we declare them to be, for example, unbelievers or disbelievers? Which is a very excellent question. We said generally, yes, a person that makes mockery of the Sunnah is generally that is a statement of disbelief. Generally. Alhamdulillah. Generally, to make mockery of the Sunnah is an act and a statement of kufr. Generally. For a person to say, for example, growing the beard, to me, that's only for cavemen. That's only for people that still want to live in the bone ages, for example. Or that's only for the times of old, the people that live in the medieval times or medieval society or whatever they want to mention. This statement is a statement of disbelief. It is, generally. Because, like we said, due to the book that some of the sisters or some of the brothers have studied, called Nawaqidul Islam, the affairs of what nullifies one's Islam, you'll find there's an affair that nullifies Islam that the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab mentioned, where he said to make mockery of the signs of Allah. From those signs is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He said that the person that makes mockery of anything that the Messenger of Allah brought is a statement and an act of kufr. To make mockery of his Sunnah, to make mockery of anything that he brought in his authentic Sunnah, to make mockery of the jilbab, to make mockery of wearing the pants above the ankles, to make mockery of these affairs is an act that will nullify one's Islam generally. However, there's a difference between general ahkam and the difference between applying it on a specific individual, as they are two different affairs. They're two different affairs, and applying these ahkam on someone specifically is a whole different arena where it requires what they call, as Ahl Ilm mentioned, is istifa' al-shurut wa intifa' al-mawani'. That the certain conditions have to be fulfilled and certain barriers have to be removed. Certain conditions have to be fulfilled and certain barriers have to be removed. And you'll find there's a book, and inshallah I'll bring it later for the sisters, that in order to firstly, number one, to specifically declare a person to be unbeliever, goes back to the people of knowledge. That's number one. Number two, as we know, a Muslim does not hasten towards declaring a Muslim to be an unbeliever, unless it's something that is clear as the sun in the sky. Number three, also likewise, I'll teach the sisters and the brothers when we have the time, that those conditions that have to be fulfilled and those barriers that have to be removed in order for a person to be declared an unbeliever. And from them, like we said, those barriers, like I mentioned and said, that a person might be misled due to the fact that he's been sitting under an evil individual that has misled them and planted that ambiguity in their heart And as a result of it, they really think what they're doing is okay, not realizing what they're saying and what they're doing is an act of disbelief. And that's the reason why you'll find that Ahl Ilm are not so quick to declare a lot of Muslims in Muslim countries, in certain countries, to be unbelievers, even though they're committing an act of kufr. And I said, we gave an example for example, in Egypt, you'll find there are people over there that worship graves. And you'll find that they make supplication to people who are dead. They call on the dead. You'll find there are Sufis out there that call on the dead, whether they be righteous or wretched, supplicating to them and talking to them and asking them to remove certain evils that are taking place in their lives or certain plights that they're facing in their life, asking the dead to remove it, or asking the person who's from the prophets to move it, or whoever it is from the dead. You'll find that they actually do this. And we know that this is pure, absolute, clear what? Polytheism. Do we say now, we go over to that Muslim country and say, oh, all these people are kuffar. You see that person that's making tawaf around that grave? He's a kafir. She's a kafir. That child's a kafir. All of them are kafir, kuffar. La. A person should not hasten towards takfir. However, we do say that what they are committing is an act of kufr. With them making tawaf around the grave is an act of kufr. It's an act that will nullify Islam, and what they're committing is shirk. We do definitely say that without a doubt. Now to say that they're a kafir is a whole nother arena. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? No. طيب. So now we go back to Kitab al-Nikah. We finished the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ taught us the supplication of what one will supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to attain certain benefits, especially for one's offspring or his child. We said on authority Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, we also discussed the hadith and we extracted the narrations or benefits from this narration. We also finished it, and I think alhamdulillah, we pretty much covered everything we need to cover. We talked about in the hadith of Ibn Abbas that if one of you, if he wanted to be intimate with his family, and we said that this narration also it refutes and rebuttals a couple of the deviant sects. From them is the Qadariyah and the Jabriyah, even though they are Qadariyah. The Qadariyah and the Jabriyah. The Qadariyah and the Jabriyah. We said, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said, if one of you wants to be intimate with his wife, this narration here, like we said, refutes the deviant sect, or this statement of the Messenger of Allah. And if you look in your books, everyone, this statement here, if one of you wants to be intimate with his wife, refutes the Qadariyah. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. It refutes the Jabriyah. The Jabriyah. Excuse me for 1 second, everyone. I'll put this up. I was right. The statement when the Prophet ﷺ said, if one of you wants to be intimate, refutes the Jabriyah. What is the Jabriyah, brothers and sisters, as I mentioned last class? The Jabriyah is a deviant sect that have the ideology or the belief that the actions of the servants have been forced. They've been forced to do certain acts, that they had no choice, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forced them. Or that it's not actually them doing the act, rather it was something either Allah forced upon them, or they had no choice, and they had no will or control over what they do. And I'm sure that everyone in this room sees the evil and the wickedness of this statement. That the Jabriyah, they believe that the actions of the slaves or the servants or the human beings are forced. Like they have no choice. They have no choice in what they do or what they choose of good and evil or guidance or misguidance or good and evil or righteousness or wickedness. They had no choice. All of it has been forced upon them. And you'll find that the Jabriyah, if you wanted to sum it up to say, what is the meaning of the Jabriyah? Jabriyah just believe that the will of Allah is dominant over everything and everyone to the point where they go to the extreme in this affirmation until they remove the will of the creation or the choice of the creation from it. So that's basically to sum up what the Jabriyah believe. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will, His destiny, His divine decree dominated to the point where they went into the extreme in affirmation of this until they snatch the will and the choice and the free will or the free choice from the creation. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And we know, number one, as I discussed in the other classes, that this was this belief was the belief of Shaitan. This was a satanic belief. Shaitan himself tried to blame the qadr of Allah, to utilize it to justify why he did not prostrate to the angels. A person would say, what's your proof of that? The proof of that is in Surah Al-A'raf. It's in the second page, Surah Al-A'raf. Surah Al-A'raf, the surah of the plains, or the hills of the plains, or what have you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Shaitan says in his book, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, because of you misguiding me. Because of you misguiding me. So Shaitan basically wanted to blame the qadr of Allah upon his act that he committed of not making sujood. So he wanted to exonerate himself and say, oh Allah, you forced this act upon me. I had no control. It's your fault. You destined this to me to happen. You misled me. This is your fault. I had no control over it. This is your fault. You'll find that Ahl al-Ilm mention and say that Shaitan, based upon this, shows that he has absolute belief, he has the absolute knowledge of the divine decree of Allah. That he affirms the qadr of Allah. That's number one. However, he wanted to use it to justify his evil. By saying, Allah, I had no free will, I had no choice, it's your fault that why I'm misguided. Because you forced this upon me, you written this upon me, I had no control, this is the reason why I'm misled and I'm misguided because of you. It's your fault. So you see the evil mannerism and etiquette he had with Allah. So he basically said, I had no choice, it's your fault. You understand, everyone? Is it clear what I'm saying, or I need to repeat it? To the point where Shaitan utilized the qadr to justify his evil, which is the belief of the Jabriyah, in order to say, now because of this, I will now lurk in their path and I'll mislead all of them, as he says in the other ayat. But at any rate, the Jabriyah is a satanic belief from Iblis. Originally, Iblis had this belief system. And the Jabriyah, like we said, a person will say, I'm sure some people will say, what does the study of this benefit us? The study of this benefits us, like I said. Number one is to show how our belief system is correct. Because by you hear these type of ill, corrupted beliefs, you'll see how it's beautiful what Ahl Sunnah believe. And by opposites, you'll find that things become distinct and clear. By you learning what opposes what's correct. By you learning what is incorrect, it teaches you to stay away from it. And it also teaches you and shows you and manifests the beauty of what is correct. And by knowing things that are incorrect, things become distinct and clear. So you'll find that the Qadariyya, or the Jabriyya, like we said, a person would say, well, how does this affect our lives today, currently, in modern day society? Even though there's not a deviant sect called the Jabriyya, there are stand out alone with them being actually called the name Jabriyya. Their ideologies are present in a lot of statements of people. Like I talked about before, I've heard non-Muslims say in their speeches, for example, you are in control of your own destiny. You'll find these are statements of the Qadariyya, of the Jabriyya. Like for example, astaghfirullah, that's the Qadariyya. That's not the Jabriyya. You'll find that, excuse me, I'm sorry everyone. The Jabriyya is the opposite. You'll find that there's statements, for example, that's the opposite, that's the other one. As far as the Jabriyya, you'll find that there are people out there that say, for example, and I've heard this from people who are incarcerated. I've heard this from certain people. They say statements such as that Allah wanted to return me back to the place where He loved me the most. So He utilized some evil that He committed to go back to jail. So I'm like, huh? So basically, I had no choice in the matter. Allah written that out. So how would you know that Allah written out for you to commit an evil act that you to do that, to justify for you, to now utilize it to say that I will now return back to being incarcerated? So basically, he's saying that, this evil act I committed. So the thing I want to know is, do you acknowledge that what you did was wrong? That's the issue. No, I don't want to say it's wrong because it was already written and preordained. That's a statement of Jabriyya. It's a statement of the Jabriyya. If you don't say that, because when a person says, I acknowledge I'm wrong, when you say that statement, you are clearly displaying that you had the choice. And you chose otherwise to do something incorrect. But however, when you say, no, it's justified, this is what Allah has written for me, that's a statement of the Jabriyya. Is it clear what I'm saying, sisters? So those statements, even though, like we said, there's not a deviant sect, and you'll find, like we said, these type of beliefs are very, very dangerous because it will justify for anyone to commit an act that is oppressive and corruptive to justify as evil or he or she's evil. That's the reason why we teach these type of ahadith and these narrations and this knowledge, because a person can be an upright human being. Because no one can now go out in society wreaking havoc and performing acts that are absolutely disgraceful, and then trying to use the qadr of Allah to justify it. For example, I killed so-and-so. Why'd you kill him? Ya akhi, Allah had it written out for me. Huh? Why'd you steal? Oh, I stole, Allah written it out for me. Huh? Oh, why did you treat so-and-so with so much evil? Why did you do that to so-and-so? Why did you hurt him? Or why did you harm that woman? Why did you harm that child? Why did you commit such and such acts? Why did you fornicate? Why did you commit drugs? Why did you sell drugs? Ya akhi, Allah had it written out for me. That's the statement of the Jabriyya. And just we talked about the Jabriyya, their origin went back to Iblis, to Shaitan. Also, you'll find that the Jabriyya was refuted by Allah Himself. A person would say, how Allah refute the Jabriyya? You'll find in the book of Allah there's 2 ayats. And a person will find, and this shows that the book of Allah has abundance of refutations against falsehood. You'll find that Allah Ta'ala says in this book, in Surah An-Nahl, He says, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا لَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا أَشْرَكْنَا وَلَا آبَاؤُنَا وَمَا حَرَّمْنَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ. That's one ayah. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا لَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا عَبَدْنَا مِنْ دُونِهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ نَحْنُ وَلَا آبَاؤُنَا وَلَا حَرَّمْنَا مِنْهُ شَيْءٍ. One ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَذَلِكَ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ حَتَّى ذَاقُوا بَأْسَنَا هَلْ عِنْدَكُم مِّنْ خَزَائِنِ هَلْ عِنْدَكُم مِّنْ عِلْمٍ فَتُخْرِجُوهُ لَنَا إِن تَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِلَّا مَا تَخْرُسُونَ قُلْ لِلَّهِ الْحُجَّةُ الْبَالِغَةُ وَلَوْ شَاءَ لَهَدَاكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refuted the ideology of the Jabriyah when he refuted the mushrikeen. The polytheists of the past came with every type of known falsehood that could come in order to justify their evil. So there's a statement, let me try to find it, because some of the sisters probably want to know the ayah. You'll find there's an ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, one is in Surah An-Nahl, the Surah of the bees. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, those who disbelieve in Allah. Now listen carefully, sisters, and I'm going to show how all this applies to the Jabriyah. If Allah had willed, we would not have committed shirk. Not us, nor our forefathers. And he would not have made anything unlawful upon us of that. So the mushrikeen were trying to justify their polytheism and their evil by saying that this is what Allah had written upon us. This is what Allah had bonded. This is what He written for us. And this is what we're doing. We had no choice. That's why we're going to continue to do shirk, based upon the fact that what? That this is what Allah has written as a destiny for us. So basically they're using the qadr, the destiny or divine decree of Allah, to remain upon polytheism and also to justify their evil. You understand what I'm saying so far, sisters? I'll say it again. Let me push this first. Let me put that one first. No. So one ayah is in Surah Al-An'am, ayat number 148. The Surah Al-An'am and Surah Al-Nahl, listen both. Surah Al-An'am, ayat number 148. Allah says in His book, those who associated partners with Allah will say, if Allah had willed, we would not have associated anything or committed polytheism, and neither would our fathers, nor would He prohibited anything. So you'll find clearly in this ayah that the mushrikeen used the statement of the Jabriyah in order to justify their evil by saying the will of Allah dominated over us, so this justifies for us our polytheism and our evil we're committing. Is it clear? So basically, the mushrikeen are saying we had no choice. So the reason why we committed polytheism always goes back to Allah and what Allah willed and what Allah has preordained and destined. So that means we could continue what we're doing based upon the fact that this is what Allah has written upon us. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, sisters? Allah refuted them in this notion. If you look in the same context in this ayah, listen to what Allah says. Allah came with a different ayah to rebuttal this ambiguity. He says, كَذَلِكَ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Just likewise, those who belied from before said the exact same thing. So Allah is saying that those who belied and fell into misguidance said the exact same thing until they tasted our punishment. So that means that this statement is a statement of those who were misguided from before, and as a result of them making this statement, they were punished. So that's one rebuttal. Another rebuttal, Allah says in His ayah, do you have some knowledge of this affair that you can manifest and bring it forth and extract? What does He mean? What do they mean? What is they talking about? Basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, how did you know that Allah had this affair destined for you? Do you have knowledge of the unseen? How did you know that Allah had this thing already written for you? How? How did you know? What's your knowledge you can present? Did you see the preserved tablet? Did you see this thing to be written out? Because these are affairs from the unseen that Allah has not disclosed, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept secret from everyone. Nobody knows anyone's destiny except Allah. Specifically and individually, no one can say, what's written for me is for me to do such and such. Or what's written for me is to do such and such. Or what's not written for me is to do such and such or to do such and such. No one has no proof of that. Because no one knows the unseen. And we know the affairs of the divine decree and destiny of Allah is from the affairs of the unseen. No one knows it. Except Allah. So Allah is now putting another rebuttal on them and say, present to the people some knowledge that you know what was destined and written for you to do. You don't have it. So then Allah refutes them again in the ayah by saying this: you don't follow anything except mere what? Assumption. And you're not doing anything except what? Lying and falsifying. So it's as if Allah is saying, though, if those who want to use the qadr in the divine decree as a justification for your evil, know for sure that this ideology and this belief system is corruptive and it's evil. And that if you think that you're going to utilize Allah's qadr to justify your evil, know for sure there's going to be a punishment waiting for you. Meaning that you had your choice, and you had a choice and an alternative to choose between what was right, what was wrong, what was guidance, what was misguidance. You had your will, and Allah gave you the choice. You chose what was wrong. As a result, you faced the consequences in the end. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? Or is it not clear? To the sisters, do I need to repeat it again? I heard yes, I heard no, mixed. I'll say it again. The Jabriyah believe. Let's go back. What is the ideology of the Jabriyah? What's the ideology of the Jabriyah? The Jabriyah, just basically Jabr, Jim, Ba, Ra. Jabr, well actually Jabr, Jabr means two things. Jabr basically linguistically means to be forced, coerced, forced, to force. Also Jabr also means to repair something. I'll talk about that later because it comes from the word Jabira. This Jabira in the Arabic language means like a cast after a bone has been broke. I don't want to talk about the different derivatives. But at any rate, Jabr this means force. And I'm sure that everyone is familiar with the word al-jabra, which means algebra. But anyway, we won't talk about that. That's a side benefit. But anyway, algebra is initially from the Muslims because it comes from the word al-jabr. Anyway, for what we're saying in regards to al-jabr means forced. Al-jabr means to be forced. So you'll find that force, they made a deviant sect out of it called the Jabriyah. The Jabriyah. The Jabriyah believe that all the acts of the servants in the creation have been forced upon them. They had no choice. Basically, they affirmed the will of Allah. They affirmed the divine decree and destiny of Allah, that things have been written out for the creation. They affirmed this. However, they went to the extremes in this affair until they snatched and removed another affair of the qadr, which is to affirm that the creation have their will, and they also have the alternative to choose between good and evil, or guidance or misguidance. They went into an extreme. They became excessive in their belief until they snatched away the belief of free choice for the creation. You'll find there are also if you want to add another benefit on, just to give a little bit more clarity, you'll find that the Jabriyah also believe that in actuality, that it's not the creation that does the acts. You'll find they go to the extreme to say it's Allah that does the act. They'll go to that extreme. So it's not Allah that when you do an act, they say it's not you that's doing the act, it's Allah that's doing the act. They even go to that extreme. So it's not you doing the act, Allah did the act. Allah did the act in actuality. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? So that's the deviant ideologies of the Jabriyah. The Jabriyah was a deviant ideology, and you'll find a person would say, what's the benefit in this, ya AbdurRazzaaq? There's no deviant sect called the Jabriyah. Yes, they are. Their ideologies exist to this day. Number one, through statements of ignorant Muslims that I've heard that said, yeah, akhi, I committed zina, or I committed a crime so I could go back to jail. You'll be like, huh? Allah wanted to return me back to a place that He loved me the most. You'll say, people have said this to me, so I said to them, okay, since you say that, let me ask you this question. I just want one answer. Do you acknowledge what you did to get you back into jail? Do you acknowledge that what you did was wrong or right, or was it justified? Just ask that question. Number one, that's it. That's all I want to know. Well, if it's justified. If you say it was justified, because that's what Allah had preordained, that's a statement of the Jabriyah. Because basically you're blaming Allah's qadr to justify your evil. Which is dangerous. Because now these corrupted ideologies bring corruption in the society. Because now a person could go out and kill and murder and wreak havoc and shed blood and steal and do every type of filthy act and say it's justified. That's the reason why you'll find that Ahl Ilm highly refutes these deviant sects because of the dangers that it can cause, especially upon society. That person that believes this nonsense, it can lead down the road of destruction in society and wreaking havoc in society. Because a person now can do any type of filthy act and say it's been justified. I had no choice over it. Yahi, why you get drunk? Well, this is what Allah had written for me. This is what Allah wanted me to do. I had no control over it. Huh? Every person knows, even by the aspect of his, from the aspect of just tangibility in society, everyone knows instinctively everything we say and do, you had choice over it. You feel it in every moment of time. You don't have no feeling that anybody is forcing you to do anything. Right now, when we're teaching right now, and I'm moving my hands and I'm moving my lips and I'm speaking words, do I have any sense right now that I'm being forced? No. I'm saying it freely. I have my own choice. When a person leaves out the door to go to work in the morning, do they get a sense that someone is pushing them out the door? Or they're getting up and doing it freely? Or when you're getting out your car, or when you're walking in the masjid, or when you're walking out the masjid, do you get any feeling that you're being pushed out? Or someone is taking you and tying you and throwing you out, pushing you in your car, and you're putting your key, and someone's forcing your hand inside the key ignition? Nobody gets that feeling, Yahi. This is nonsense. You understand where I'm coming from, sisters? A person would say, just by instinct, by the natural disposition of the human being, it would refute this. But there's people out there that's been, their minds are so weak to the point where they'll fall for actually believing this nonsense. And if you get back to all the ideologies of all the deviant sects, and you really studied it, you would be like, Akhi, how can anybody believe this nonsense? But truly, there are Muslims out there that believes this nonsense. A person would say, AbdurRazzaaq, what from the Muslims believe this nonsense? The Asha'ira. The Asha'ira till today, have the ideologies of the Jabriyah. The Asha'ira, from their belief system, they have the ideologies of the Jabriyah. The Asha'ira. You'll find that there are teachers out there, and with Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jami, he even mentioned this in one of his lectures, in his classes. He said that there was a doctor, there was a so-called person that had a doctorate. He was from Egypt, from Azhar. He said he was teaching a class and he was teaching the students. He said that the actions of the slaves, in actuality, it's not you that do it, it's Allah that does it. It's not you that do it, Allah does it. This is a statement of what, everyone? The Jabriyah. Tayyib. Now, the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jami, he refuted this statement by saying one thing. So this so-called doctor, he brought an ayah. He brought an ayah to justify his falsehood. he said, he said this ayah. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ لَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Use the ayah. استدل ثم اعتقد. He brought an ayah. He says, you did not throw. When you threw, hence Allah threw. He used this ayah. Taib. Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jami refuted this nonsense. He says, if you go back to the tafsir of the ayah, he says, number one, when a Prophet ﷺ here, when he threw the dirt, Allah Ta'ala was distinguishing between what was the action, which he ascribed to the message of Allah, which he did in the ayah. He said the action started from the message of Allah. So the action was affirmed for the message of Allah in the same ayah. However, the dirt that was spread upon all of the polytheists at the same time, because we knew it was a miracle, because the messenger took a little bit of dirt, and the dirt covered all the eyes of the polytheists, all at once. So Allah in the ayah wanted to show the miracle that was done. Initially, the act was started from the message of Allah, which was the reason. But the actual dirt being thrown in the eyes of the mushrikeen, of all of them at once, that Allah Ta'ala allowed to happen, and He was the one that allowed it, which He did do as far as in regards to the dirt being what spread to them all at once. But the action was ascribed to the message of Allah. He started it. He did it. He says, if the ayah was true, what you're saying, O Doctor, that this doctor that Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad is refuting, he says, would it make sense to us to say out of our mouths? And this is what he was saying. Did not pray when you prayed, however Allah prayed. Does that make sense? You did not fast when you fasted, however Allah fasted. You did not have sex when you had sex, however you complete the sentence. Does it make any sense? Does anyone with any type of knowledge would say that statement is a statement that's correct? When anyone in this room say, for example, you get up to pray Al-Asr right now. We just prayed Al-Asr. Yo, you didn't pray when you prayed, however Allah prayed. Does that make sense? You did not fast when you fasted, however Allah fasted. Did it make sense? You did not be intimate with your wife when you was intimate, however. You understand? Does it make any sense? Sisters, does it make any sense? Is this statement acceptable right now? Would you accept this statement for me to say, so you didn't give sadaqah when you gave sadaqah, however Allah gave sadaqah? You did not walk in the masjid when you walked in the masjid, however Allah walked in the masjid. Does it make any sense? Absolute nonsense. So all these are the deviant ideologies of the Jabriyah. To this day, there are Muslims out there that believe this, especially the Asha'ira. The Asha'ira contain and have the beliefs of the Jabriyah. They still exist to this day. And you'll find that it's used in a lot of statements from Muslims who are ignorant, who do not know better. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? Tayyib. A person would say, how's that in the book of Allah? Allah refuted it, like I said, in Surah Al-An'am. Allah refuted it when the mushrikeen used the same principle. They used the same belief. They said in Surah Al-An'am, ayat number what? 146. No, I'm sorry. Astaghfirullah. Ayat number 148. Surah Al-An'am. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, those who set up partners with Allah or commit shirk or polytheism, they say, if Allah had willed, we would not have committed shirk. Not our fathers, nor our forefathers. Isn't this the same ideologies of the Jabriyah or not? Is it or isn't it? It is. Why? Because the mushrikeen, in order to justify their polytheism, they're saying, okay, if Allah had willed, because Allah has total control and we have no choice, we would not have committed shirk. Allah would have just made us not commit shirk. So they're ascribing it now to Allah's will, His destiny, and that Allah forced us upon this. So if that's the case, the reason why we're committing shirk, because Allah willed it, Allah destined it, and this is what Allah has forced us to do. We had no control. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refuted this by saying to them, Taib, if you want to blame the qadr of Allah and blame Allah for their evil act, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, just likewise those who belied from before us, meaning that they belied the truth and they say the same statement to justify their evil until they tasted our punishment. Here in this ayat, brothers and sisters, if you ponder on it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as if He's saying to them, you had your own choice. You had your choice. Meaning, Allah had His will, but you had your will too. And you had your freedom to choose. You chose something wrong. As a result of it, you got punished. Why? Because what I said last class. What's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a paradise and hell? Why, everyone? It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for everyone. If actions were forced upon us, and actions were forced upon the creation, why would people be punished in hell based upon they had something they had no choice over? Why would a person be punished over something they had no choice or alternative they had no freedom over? It doesn't make any sense. It's just like a person right now, as I said in last class. A person came in the room, tied you up, put a gun to your head and said, drink this intoxicant. Right? They took the bottle, forced it in your mouth with the gun to your head, which you tied up. That person has been clearly what? Forced. Right, everyone? Coerced, forced. Fine. Now your father comes in the room, sees that you're intoxicated, and he starts to say, I'm punishing you now. So for your father or any someone disciplinary, do a disciplinary act that's done this, hasn't he now oppressed you? Because you said, why are you punishing me when so-and-so tied me up, put a gun in my head, and stuffed the bottle in my mouth? So basically now, my father or someone coming in to beat me up because I was forced to do something, isn't that oppression? Sisters, are you having doubt on what I say? Oh, okay, I thought sisters or some people was quiet. They're like, huh? Yes. So the same thing applies with Allah. It's as if the jeopardy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying right now in this ayah, they just likewise who said the exact same nonsense before until they tasted our punishment. Meaning they tasted their consequences and their punishment because Allah was saying that they had the choice. They had their will too. They chose otherwise until Allah brought His consequences and His punishment. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. If actions were forced upon people, why would people be punished for something they had no choice over? That's oppression. That's injustice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has clearly said in the hadith, Ya ibadi, inni harramtu dhulma ala nafsi, wa ja'altuhu baynakum muharraman fala tadhalamu. O my servants, I have made oppression haram upon me. And I've made injustice and oppression between yourselves also unlawful. So do not oppress one another. Right? So based upon this statement, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in so many ayat, وَمَا ظَلَمَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَكِنْ أَنفُسَهُمْ كَانُوا يَظْلِمُونَ. Allah says that clearly in His book. Allah did not oppress them. However, they themselves oppressed themselves. Meaning, Allah gave them the act and the will to what? Choose. You chose otherwise, Allah's consequences came. Is it clear what I'm saying? Where's you guys' books? You don't have no books in there? No paper, no books? I'm not talking to the sister, I'm talking to someone else. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Right. So that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refuted them with these type of what? Rebuttals here that's mentioned in the ayah. He said, number one, just like those who came before said the exact same thing until they tasted our punishment. Basically to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the choice. They chose what was wrong, and they tried to use this, Allah's punishment came. Then Allah refuted them with another part of the ayah. He says, do you have knowledge that you can bring forth? Meaning, do you have knowledge of the unseen where you looked inside the qadr of Allah, or that you looked in the preserved tablet, or that you looked in the divine decree, or that you seen something of the unseen to show that you know that this thing was actually decreed and destined for you to do? Bring it forth then. They can't bring it forth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is establishing upon them that what they are doing is what? Wrong. Is it clear? G. I had to do this. So it's time to stop the class. I'm talking about the Jabariyyah for the whole hour. طيب. Where's you guys have no books, no nothing? Books and pens and paper, nothing. They don't have anything, huh? You got PDF. PDF is free. So you have to pay anything. PDF. Let's say for sure. So we say in this regard, brothers and sisters, these things are what? So what refutes this? What refutes this is to say here. When the Messenger of Allah said in the hadith, what does he say? If one of you wanted to what? Be intimate with his wife. Now let's say the statement of the Jabariyyah. If one of you wanted to be intimate, if one of you, and they're saying Allah is the one that did it, that means that Allah will be intimate with, you finish and fill in the blanks. Does that make any sense? Fill in the blanks. I'm shy to say it, of course. That's the reason why I'm not saying it. But based upon the Jabariyyah, their statement is if one of you, meaning one of you being Allah, wants to be what? Look at the hadith. Is that appropriate to say out of your mouth? Exactly. That's the reason why you'll find that the Ahl Ilm say that this statement refutes the what? The Jabariyyah. Is you get it, everyone? Does everyone get it? And if it's Allah that, alhamdulillah, we continue to dua. Taib. So it says at the end of the narration, Bismillah. A person would say, in the name of Allah, O Allah, keep the shaitan away from us, and keep the shaitan away from what you provide for us. We already discussed that if one was to make that supplication, then Allah Ta'ala will protect the child from being harmed. And we talked about the different types of harms, whether it be what? A harm in the body or harm in the religion or whatever. But that we know that there is the benefit of that supplication upon intimacy. Taib. The last part of the hadith, as we said, refutes the opposite of the Jabariyyah. A person would say, so you mean to tell me there's an opposite of the Jabariyyah? There's an opposite. That's on the opposite side of the extreme, or opposite side of the spectrum, as they say. Where you find it says, إن يقدر بينهما ولد في ذلك لم يضره الشيطان. If there's a child that has been written out, that Allah decreed, and He had written out and destined that it will be born, the shaitan will not be able to harm the child. Based upon this one, it says, if the Messenger of Allah refuted the ideologies of the Jabariyyah and the opposite side of the spectrum, which is called the Qadariyah. The Qadariyah. A person will say, how are they the opposite of the Jabariyyah? The Qadariyah are the opposite. So all you have to do is take the Jabariyyah and flip it. That's all you have to do. How do we flip it? Say that the human beings in the creation have total domination over their destiny and their what? And their decree. They have total full control over their destiny and what happens in their lives. Allah has no will over it. Allah didn't have it written out. Allah had no power over it. You are in total full control. So you see how it's the opposite, brothers and sisters? It's the opposite, so flip it. So the Qadariyah affirmed the will of Allah, the will of the creation, to the point where they snatched and took away the will of Allah from the creation. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? So it's the opposite of the Jabariyyah. I forgot the poetry. I'll do that later. At any rate, the Qadariyah, the people who deviated in the Qadr, or the divine decree of Allah, we know that this type of belief that the creation has full dominant control is a belief that is absolute nonsense likewise. Based upon the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala firstly says that He has His will over the creation. That's number one. Then number two, the message of Allah said that Allah ta'ala has His has His will over the creation. And He has it written out. This is clear in the authentic narrations. And also the prophets and the prophets from before, from all the prophets and the messengers, unanimously believed that Allah has preordained and Allah has His will over the creation. Whereas the creation do have their will and their free choice, and their free will and their free choice follows behind us, we know the will of the Creator. The point of the matter is that the correct belief that was unanimous between all the prophets and the messengers, all of them without any disagreement, is that the belief in the divine decree and destiny of Allah, and that Allah has His will over the creation. That this type of ideology was something that's unprecedented, that none of the prophets or the messengers, and also likewise, Shaitan didn't even believe this. Shaitan didn't even believe this nonsense. Not even the angels believe this nonsense. Not even the people of paradise or hell believe this nonsense. So now, a person would say, not even the people of hell believe this. So you got to think that a person that deviated in the Qadr, you went against what Allah said. You went against what the messenger said. You went against that all the nations from the past, from all the messengers and the prophets, unanimously, starting from the first, from Adam, all the way up to the last final prophet, messenger to Muhammad, from Nuh, from Musa, all of them believe that Allah has His will over the creation. So you went against what Allah said, His messenger said, even all the prophets and the messengers unanimously. And you even oppose Shaitan. The devil himself doesn't even believe this. As I said the brothers and the sisters before, remember Iblis used the Qadr to justify his evil. But generally he affirmed it. Because that's why he blamed Allah. That's why he said, because of you, this is your fault why you misled me. Being he's saying that your will dominated me to the point where I fell into misguidance. So Shaitan said, basically, he's saying that I believe in the Qadr. So Shaitan is better than you in his belief than you. You surpass Shaitan in misguidance. Is it clear what I'm saying, sisters? Also likewise, that when the people of paradise enter paradise and the people of hell enter hell, they will also affirm the Qadr of Allah at the time when they enter it. See how Kitab and Sunnah is deep. When you learn it, you'll be like, man, that absolutely makes sense. What do you mean by that? When the people of the hellfire, you know what they'll say? As Al-Imam Abu Bakr al-Ajurri mentions in Sharia, he mentions it says this in one of his lessons when he was refuting the ideologies of the Qadariyah. He said that Allah mentions in his book that the people of the hellfire will say, رَبَّنَا غَلَبَتْ عَلَيْنَا شِقْوَتُنَا. Oh Allah, the evilness and wickedness that was written and preordained out for us, even though we had our own choice, it took precedence. So the people of the hellfire are saying a statement that affirms the Qadr, meaning the divine decree of Allah. It's deep, isn't it? They're going to say, oh Allah, what has taken us over is not only just our evil that we had the free choice over, but at the same time, that was preordained and that destined. You had your will, but our will also likewise had to play in it. That's why we're in the hellfire, because we had our choice too. But at the same time, they were what? They affirming that Allah had that what? Had it written. So the people of the Qadariyah did not say what Allah said, nor the messenger said, nor the angel said, nor the prophet said, nor the Shaitan said, nor the people of paradise said. The person would say, a person that put about the people of paradise, how do they say? Because the people of paradise, when they enter paradise, they will say a statement. They'll say, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada, wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. They'll say a statement, oh Allah, all praise is due to the one that guided us, that guided us. When you say guided us, that's still affirming what? The will of Allah. And we would not have been rightly guided if Allah had not have guided us. Which is to show what? That Allah has His will. Because guidance means that Allah has His will. He has His domination. He has His power. You cannot guide someone unless you have domination power over the individual. So the people of paradise are going to affirm the qadr of Allah. And likewise, the people of hell has affirmed the qadr of Allah. So the Qadariyya and their deviant ideologies have exceeded and excelled past Allah. What Allah has affirmed, what the messenger affirmed, the angels affirmed, the prophets, the messengers, shaitan. You've exceeded shaitan because he don't even believe this. And the people of paradise and the people of hell. When you study Kitab and Sunnah, you'll see how pathetic and filthy these ideologies are and how lowly they are. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, sisters? Gee. Now a person would say, yeah, AbdurRazzaaq, you guys are wasting your time studying, because I've heard this nonsense from certain callers and people, especially callers of misguidance. They'll say this. And I'm sure that everyone probably will know when I'm about to say this. So this is the qadr. This is the evil ideology, is the qadr. So that manifesto shows you this individual that said clearly out of his mouth, it's not, we can't ask Allah. We can't ask, we cannot wait for Allah to rectify this. We made this mess. When a person says this statement out of his mouth, isn't this a statement of the Qadariyya? A person right now says, we're not going to wait for Allah to rectify this. We're not going to wait for Allah to rectify this. We're not going to wait for Allah to rectify these affairs. We made this mess. We rectify it. Everybody knows there's nothing can be rectified except that the person has to rectify themselves, and then ultimately the affair will be rectified by what? By Allah Himself. Because there's nothing that takes place in this world of guidance, of misguidance, or anything being rectified or misguided except it's by the will of Allah ultimately. Is it clear what I'm saying, brothers and sisters? Is it clear what I'm saying? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says in the ayah, He will not change the what? State of the people. Which shows what? That ultimately rectification goes back to Him ultimately. Except that what? Until the people change what? Within themselves. So Allah is affirming the will for the creation and the will for who? The Creator. Both at the same time. So when a person says out of his mouth, we ain't waiting for Allah to rectify this. We got to rectify it. We made this mess. Yeah, akhi. For verily a person that makes a statement, this is a statement of Qadariyya. Basically now you have what? Remove the will of the Creator. None of this have taken place except by Allah's will, whether it be good or evil. And none of it will take place of rectification except ultimately who? Except by who? Except by Allah. Because He's the one that ultimately controls the creation as far as in His will, even though the will of the Creator, the will of the creation has been affirmed and established, and it falls behind the will of the Creator. But however, the person or the abd or the slave ultimately has his choice. But if you choose the right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately will change the situation. And He will rectify it, and He will increase one in guidance if he makes the proper decision. And when they chose misguidance, Allah also what? Misled them. Which is to let you know that what? Ultimately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His will over the creation, even though you have your free choice. A person will also say, what's the benefit of studying these ideologies? Because I've heard non-Muslims have said in their speeches, and from their leaders, I've heard them say them out of their mouth. They've said to them, to non-Muslims, they was given a speech, they said, for example, your destiny has not been written out for you. Nothing has been written out for you. That's what everyone, that's the belief of what? The Qadariyya. If a person says out of this statement, listen, nothing has been written out yet. You have a clean slate. Nothing has been written out for you. Nothing is written out for you. Life is totally what you make it. Life is what you make it. Yes, life is what you make it. That's a blanket statement that needs to be explained. Life is not just what you make it. Life is a matter of choice. No matter, that's true. A lot, you will say the correct statement. Life is about choices. Choices. At the same time, where our hearts are still tied in with Allah, because ultimately we need the help of Allah, because what I'm embarking upon, it could be something beneficial for me, or it could be something harmful for me. And ultimately, I want my Lord to what? Guide me of what will be beneficial for me, regardless of whether or not the outcome will be what I think is something what? Harmful or beneficial. Person might, for example, say, all right, life is what you make it. Tayyib, you go out and set out to college. You set out and study in college for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Tayyib, so you thinking now you have the belief of the Qadariyah. I got total domination control. This is me. This is what I do. You know what I mean? Alhamdulillah, I'm all smart and I get all these nice grades or whatever. Right? Tayyib. So now you walk out the door, you slipped on the step. Bang! Broke your back. Can't do nothing now. What you gonna do now? You got total control over your destiny? I'm asking. How many athletes do we know out here? I'm an athlete. I have full domination control over my destiny. I'm big bad man out here. I have total full domination. Control. He's doing the best that he can, and all of a sudden, in one instance, bang, broke his leg. Career ended, done. What you gonna say? I have full control over my destiny? I'm asking. That's the reason why the servant always sets out to do what's correct, set out to do what's beneficial to your life, but ultimately you tie your affairs for Allah because you know ultimately Allah is the one that controls whether or not He knows whether or not this affair that you're embarking upon will be something beneficial for you or will be harmful for you. Maybe if you would have finished college and became that doctor, maybe you might have been an arrogant kafir that disbelieved. Maybe if you would have continued to be that athlete, you would have ultimately, led you down a road of deep disbelief and arrogance. As we know, a lot of those athletes that reach high status, a lot of them become very belligerent and arrogant. They start looking down upon people. And they start even making statements of kufr until you have even heard athletes say out of their mouth that I'm God. God came down and he couldn't even beat me. You'll find that they say statements that necessitates kufr. You'll find that they say that I'm God in this ring, or I'm God here. Statements of arrogance and belligerence. That maybe if Allah had not caused that injury for you, you would not have been rightly guided to Islam. So ultimately, the affair goes back to Allah. And the divine decree, as we talked about from the benefits and the affirmation of it, it keeps you a humble individual. Keeps you humble. It will keep you humble so you won't become amazed at yourself, thinking that this is all about me, this is what I do. And you've heard Kuffar state these statements. And you've heard them say this is about me, this is what I've done. This is me, this is all me right here. This is what me, this is what I've done. This is my hard work. Yeah, akhi, if Allah had not put your soul in after you wake up in the morning, you wouldn't be able to do that. If Allah, maybe you might have woke up, and I've heard stories about this, people have died in their sleep. People have woken up one day where they woke up and they just fell right on the ground and their legs became paralyzed out of nowhere. I've heard of people that woke up one day, out of their sleep, was blind. We've heard stories like this. So the fact that Allah is giving you good health on a daily basis to show ultimately that what? The affair goes back to Him. And that He's the one that allows you to what? To go out and function so you can attain these proper benefits in your life so you can excel. So ultimately the affair goes back to Allah, because Allah clearly says in this book, you don't have any good in your life of good or any blessing except it is from Allah. And if you realize this, you will remain humble. You will stay a humble individual. You'll know that my intelligence, or what you think, you so amazed at, oh, this is all me right here. This is me. That Allah gave you that intelligence. Allah is the one that gave you that intelligence. He is the one that gave you the one to be able to what? Do women's hair properly and do it in a manner that stands out and is perfect. Or that you have that eye, mashallah, to either dress nice or do things certain ways you can see in other ways people can't, of what is good, of what is attractive or whatever. Those are all gifts that Allah has bestowed upon you, upon all of us, upon all of us. To keep our arrogant behinds humble, to put us in our places. And if Allah had will, He could snatch it. If Allah wanted, He could allow your fingers to be broke. You won't be able to do hair again. What would you do now? If Allah woke you up and you woke in your arm, your hands now is all cringed. You can't move your fingers now. Because the affair went back to Allah ultimately. And Allah allows you to keep that ni'mah as long as He wills. So ultimately, all these affairs go back to Allah, which is to affirm the qadr of Allah. Is it clear what I'm saying, sisters? And that's why I'm going to end off this lesson by saying, again, Allah says that that's from the benefit of the qadr. Where He says, لِكَيْ لَا تَأْسَوْا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ وَلَا تَفْرَحُوا بِمَا آتَاكُمْ وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. Wow, it's almost time for Maghrib. It's Maghrib already. طيب, last thing I'm going to end this off here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book of the qadr, there is nothing afflicted in the heavens and the earth. He says, except that was written in the book before we brought it to existence. That's easy upon Allah. In order that you not may grieve of what you missed or what you didn't attain. Meaning that you were in college and you might have what? Woke up, something happened. So you know that it's a preordainment, so you won't be what? You won't be grieved, you won't be sad, you won't commit suicide. Because you know that Allah ultimately had that what? Control over it. And that you do not become arrogant of what Allah has given you. Meaning that now, what I have of millions of dollars, you won't say out of your mouth, this is all me right here. This is me right here. This is from my hard work. This is from my intelligence. This is all me. This is from my hard work and my diligence. If Allah had willed, you wouldn't be able to wake up. If Allah had willed, you would be sick in the hospital. How many people do we know this is their state? Allah Akbar, Allah. Show la ilaha illallah. Please every single 36 down. Oh God. Show la. Show la Muhammad Rasulullah. Oh no, he's not. I thought he was finished. Where's you guys' books? Everybody bring the books? Came late? Okay. Sorry, don't worry about it. ومر بهذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة محمد الصير الفضيل وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب. So that's the reason why it says in the ayah that you do not become arrogant over what you've been given. You do not become arrogant over what you've been given. How many people know that because of what they might have of riches or what they have done based upon their intelligence or whatever, they've been the accountant or them being excelling in some type of field, except that you'll find that a lot of them become arrogant based upon something worldly they've been given, and they think based upon their intelligence and their hard work and diligence that ultimately, like what? This is from me, and they become belligerent and haughty, and they start looking down upon people based upon this, right? You'll find this is a lot of case with a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people. Because this is the benefit of the qadr. Allah says it clearly in the ayah, that you do not become arrogant of what you've been given. Meaning that this is what Allah has given you. And that ultimately is from Allah. And if Allah willed, He could snatch it from you. How many people out there right now know that we got tests from that just this past month or 35 days? I'm sure the Kuffar was never expecting that in their daily lives, that their daily check that they've been given will be snatched from them to the point where they can't pay their bills. So now, Allah Ta'ala is saying that these affairs go back to Him, ultimately. Even though He allowed it to happen. But ultimately, all these affairs go back to Him. And if Allah had willed, like we said, you could wake up, and I'm sure I've heard many stories of people that have waking up in the morning that were very prestigious. Prestigious people who were very, very, people that were professionals in their line of work. And all of a sudden, one day they woke up, they couldn't move their legs. So now what they're doing, what they set out for, they can't do it. Or one day they woke up, and next thing you know, they might have seen, for example, their bodies are paralyzed. Or they might have woke up and their eyesight is gone. And it just happened out of nowhere. All these affairs is to keep us humble people. No matter what we have, Allah has made it clear without an exception. No matter what you have of good or a bounty, except it is from Allah. Notice it says in that last part of the ayah, Allah does not like a boaster, bragger, arrogant individual. That's the reason why He said that's from the benefits of the qadr, is to keep you a humble individual. To know that these things are from Him, and if He willed, He could snatch it, or if He willed, He can make you physically unable to attain these matters, these benefits that you so-called amazed at doing. And how many athletes do we know that they excel in certain things, and then Allah allows something in their health to happen where they can't do it anymore? As they get humbled. It's as if Allah allows something to happen to humble them and put them in their place. Tayyib. We'll stop here. So that affirms the refutation against the Qadariyah, and that wording in the hadith refutes it. When the Prophet ﷺ said, if it's been preordained between the two spouses, a child. So that refutes the Qadariyah. So it shows that they're not the creators of what comes into existence. Rather, it's Allah. And Allah Ta'ala preordains the affair. And if it truly was what the Qadariyah believed was correct, then that would necessitate that if they was intimate, that a child would come indefinitely. Like it would come out of existence because of them having total control. That's what it necessitates. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Well, I'll say it again. If it was true what the Qadariyah believed, that means that if two couples came and it was intimate, they have full control over their destiny, then that means this child, she's supposed to get pregnant. Because they got full control. But we know that ultimately there's certain instances where people are intimate, but there's no child that comes as a result of it, right? To let us know that ultimately the qadr, ultimately these affairs go back to Allah, and Allah has His what, everyone? Has His will. Is it clear? Fine. So that's the last thing. Last thing I wanted to say online. Oh boy. Last thing before we pray. It's like 3 minutes till we have to pray. Like 3 minutes. What was this? 5:16. 3 minutes. Brothers and sisters, as far as we're trying to continue to finish the work on the masjid, there's I think it's $9,000. I think he said we already had 9,000 for the bathrooms that have to start. So we need another 9,000. There's another 9,000 that has to be given or donated, so we can start the project of the bathrooms ASAP. So we can start the project because we want to start this as soon as possible. Especially here in the masjid, I think everyone is tired of coming in here and standing in a long line for one bathroom. I think everybody's getting tired of it, even myself. I come in here and I'm the imam of the masjid. I want to try to start the khutbah, and I come in here, I can't make wudu and I can't use the bathroom. So I'll have to resort to other things. Try to go outside, use a bathroom outside somewhere or in another store. and I have to make wudu in my office. That's what I do. So for that reason, through the PayPal account, if the sisters can donate, or I think they have a Cash App. There's one that's a PayPal account, which is ARRAZZAAQ 302. I'll say it again. That's the PayPal account. Do people still use PayPal? The PayPal. The PayPal account is ARRAZZAAQ 302 at gmail.com. So if the brothers and sisters want to donate, they can send it through a PayPal account, or they do. The masjid does have a Cash App. They do have a Cash App that's hanging out on the door. Oh, how you can say this? Cash me Ar-Razzaaq. Dollar. I think you could just use this. You could say $. They put a $, ARRAZZAAQ 302. That's the Cash App account. We're trying to raise funds in order to start these projects. We already have, like I said, 9,000. There's another 9,000 that has to be donated. There's another 9,000 that has to be donated so we can start these projects with these bathrooms. We're trying to do it ASAP. This thing has been prolonged for a long time. Even me, I'm looking forward to getting done. And I want these brothers and sisters to also try to strive towards trying to get 9,000 up. So people online, please try to hasten towards the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. We said whoever builds a masjid for Allah, Allah will build a masjid for him in paradise. Like I said, it's kind of sad that we said, you'll find, like I said, even me, when I come to the masjid, I'm the imam of the masjid, I have to go outside and use the bathroom. I'll come in here, the bathroom is full, so I have to run outside or use the bathroom, and I'll have to make wudu in my office. Sometimes, if I don't have to use the bathroom, I have to make wudu in my office, in the trash can in my office. I'm just telling you, this is the reality of what I do. People think that imam has it easy. No, I don't. I'm struggling just like everybody else struggling. And it's not an easy job. It's a job that relies a lot of patience, and it's a job that I think, to me, in most cases, especially in these days and times we live in, it's a passionate job. It is truly. If you don't have the passion for it, as I've seen people that don't have passion for it, they really don't treat it like it's something serious. They'll just be like, "Yeah, I get my little class, I teach you, understand, all right, I'm out, have a good day." Assalamu alaikum. There are people out there that are like that. There are callers out there that are like that, of evil, not callers of the Salafis, evil. All they worry about is a check, give me my money, whether you understood or not, I'm out. I don't care at the end of the day. However, it's a passionate job, and like you said, it is very hard and difficult in certain instances at times, especially upon myself. So brothers and sisters, please try to donate so we can get these projects finalized so we can move to something else. So all we need is 9,000. $9,000 has already been donated. We need another 9,000, and on top of that, the bills that have to be paid. The heat for this building is very expensive. To keep the heat in the building, sometimes I think now, if you look on the board, I think it was 3,000. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Amir. But the last bill was like what? It was like 3,000, not 300, 3,000 for this building. Because I think you're paying commercial prices. This is a commercial building. It's not a house. This is a commercial building. No, it's 3,000. Just the heat. Was that just for the heat, Amir? He said just the heat bill? That's just the heat bill. So 3,000. No, for that, no, that's accumulation, because we have to put I'm sure the sisters, women are used to doing this, and they strategically know how to. One month they put money on this bill, then another month they put money on that bill. Exactly. No, we can't do that. That's electricity and it's electricity and gas. It's both. Oh, it's included. So it's electricity and gas, brothers and sisters. I'm sorry, it was gas. I thought it was gas. This is electric included. So the electricity along with the gas included is $3,465. That's for just the bill. So don't think that when we gather money for a project, sometimes it has to go to the bills. That's just for the heat. Okay, so everyone, please, don't think that, and the brothers and sisters here sat to also make sure that I'm okay. Or else I'm going to be forced to get another job. Oh, the PayPal account? I'll say the PayPal account. The PayPal account again is. Okay. The PayPal account. I'll see the Cash App account again. The PayPal account is ARRAZZAAQ302@gmail.com. That's the PayPal. Cash App. The Cash App account is $. You put a $. ARRAZZAAQ302. That's the Cash App account. Like I said, the bills again, this is just the gas and electric, is $3,465. Some money was given by the sisters Friday, which still is not enough to pay off the whole bill. That's just for electric and gas. So nobody's around here thinking of the Imam is doing well. He's driving a 2018 Maybach, or he's driving a 2018 Mercedes, fully loaded with leather seat interior, with a sunroof, with nice wheels and all of that. All of us are struggling. You see me clearly, the Imam is struggling too. I'm not like you find these preachers out here that are driving Maybachs and driving a Bentley of 2018 fully loaded. Or a Maybach, or what they call those other cars. I can't remember not a Maybach, not a Rolls Royce. It's another one. I forgot the name of it. No, it's better than all of those cars. A Bugatti. That's like a $3 million car. So nobody's driving these type of cars. So everyone is doing, like we said, are struggling to do the best they can to help the community. So brothers and sisters, again, please do what you can to give, so these affairs could get finalized, so the bills could get paid, so the masjid can start these projects. Jazakumullah khairan. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.